Welcome y'all to Robin on the Farm. Today I'm making a savory bread pudding. This is a really easy recipe and I love bread pudding. Usually I make sweet bread pudding, but this one, like I said, is a savory bread pudding, and this one's gonna be a garlic and cheese bread pudding. It's so yummy. Now you can use any kind of leftover bread. Now I think this is a great recipe because you get to use your leftover breads. Nothing needs to go to waste right now. Things are so expensive, and so I'm always looking for ways to cut costs, feed my family for a little bit less money, and this is a great way just to not waste anything. There's nothing worse than throwing food in the trash that you didn't quite get around to eating. You can make bread pudding out of any kind of bread that you have left over. It's best if it's considered day-old bread or stale bread. You don't want to use your fresh bread for this, but it is that good. You might want to use your fresh bread. I am always a little bit excited when my bread gets a little bit old because I know that I can make bread pudding out of it. But you can use white bread, sourdough bread, fresh milled flour, or whole wheat bread. You can use leftover bagels or English muffins. There's no reason to let anything go to waste. Everything is so expensive these days, and so don't let anything go in the trash. You can use your leftover bread and make this really good recipe. A few days ago, I shared with y'all my recipe for butter swim biscuits. My family ate about 3/4 of those biscuits, and now they're a little bit past their prime, and so now they're just sitting on the counter, and I don't want them to go to waste. These are so good, and they are gonna be phenomenal in the savory bread pudding. So that's what I'm gonna use today. So you're gonna want about 4 cups of bread or biscuits. That's about 5 or 6 pieces of bread or 5 or 6 biscuits. And you're gonna want about a 2-quart casserole dish. You can also use a 10-inch cast iron skillet, but look at this really pretty enamel Lodge cast iron casserole dish. My husband got me this for my birthday last week. And so I just love how it's red, but then it goes to this beautiful like purple color. Anyway, I haven't used it yet, and I am gonna use it today, and I am so excited to make this savory bread pudding in this beautiful casserole dish. So for this recipe, you'll want any 2-quart casserole dish. You can use an 8x8 or a 9x9 square baking dish, or you can use like a 10-inch cast iron skillet. So let's just get started on the recipe. Like I said, it's super simple, it's fast to throw together, and it's delicious. It makes a great side for dinner, especially if you're gonna have soup or salad or something that needs to be beefed up a little bit and you need a yummy side. This is great. Okay, so to get started, I'm gonna go ahead and break up my biscuits, and I'm just gonna throw them into this casserole dish. So I just like to break them up in about 1-inch cubes and just throw them in your casserole dish. This is a great project for little kids. If you have little kids, you need to keep busy in the kitchen while you're working. Okay, you can see I have my biscuits all broken up into my casserole dish. Now remember, you don't have to use biscuits. You can use any kind of bread of any sort. It all works great in this. One of my very favorite breads to use in the savory bread pudding is my Italian herb bread. If you've ever tried that, that works great in the savory bread pudding. Okay, now time to add the rest of our ingredients to a bowl, and then we're gonna mix that up and we're gonna pour it over top of these biscuits or your bread or whatever you're using. I'm gonna start with 1.5 cups of milk. I use whole milk, but you can also use any kind of milk alternative. You can even use cream if you want it to be really, really decadent. But I'm using 1.5 cups of cold whole milk. Just pour that right on into your bowl. And to that, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of melted butter. I have this really cool Lodge cast iron melting pot. So I just melted this on my stovetop. So it's 2 tablespoons melted butter. And it doesn't matter if it's salted or unsalted. I haven't found it to be any different either way. So unsalted or salted butter will work just fine. And our next ingredient are eggs. Now I have 2 cracked eggs in here. These are 2 large eggs. I'm gonna go ahead and just scramble them up just a little bit, just to help us out while we're mixing the rest of our ingredients. But eggs are so expensive these days. A lot of the stores around me have not had eggs in a really long time. Luckily, my chickens are laying a few eggs. It's still wintertime, so they're not laying great. But I wanted to show you another option. This is dried whole egg powder by Augustin Farms. This is freeze-dried eggs. These are great for baking, and lately, with egg prices being so high and it being so hard to find eggs, I love having these in my pantry. This is a bright orange color, but all it is freeze-dried eggs. And so these are great. At my Walmart right now, a dozen eggs is $7.50. I do have chickens, but it's wintertime and they're not laying that great. So I love keeping this in my food storage. I keep about 6 to 8 of these in my food storage at all times, just for times like these. And so I have been pulling these out lately, and I've been using these in my baking. You can also use them for scrambled eggs, but it's better for baking. So I like using them in my baking. I have a couple eggs right now, so I'm using regular eggs, but you can definitely use this kind of thing in your savory bread pudding. Next, we want some spices or seasonings. Now you can get creative here. I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon of this Italian seasoning. Just gonna sprinkle that right on in. And I'm gonna use a 1/4 teaspoon of this garlic salt. Now, if you wanted to use some minced garlic, you could go ahead at the beginning and go ahead and saute your minced garlic and your butter together. If you wanna be a little bit more fancy, I'm going the easy route today, so I'm not doing that, but you could do that. Okay, and to that, I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And this is all just to taste. If you don't like pepper that much, you can totally leave it out. If you want to do whatever kind of seasonings you want. You can do rosemary, basil, anything. This is a great recipe to get creative with. And next we want some cheese. I'm going to use this shredded cheddar jack cheese. It's better if you buy your cheese in blocks and you shred it yourself. I know that, but this is the convenient way, and that's what I'm going for right now. So I really like this cheese, but you can use any kind of cheese that you want. I'm going to use a 1.5 cups of this cheddar jack cheese. And let's see, I'm just going to throw it in my bowl. It's pretty close. I'm going to use a 1.5 cups. Okay, that looks good. Now you can use pepper jack, you can use feta. I mean, you can get really creative and make this really fancy. I'm just going very basic today. Okay, I'm just gonna give this a good mix so everything gets mixed around. Now, I'm just gonna pour these ingredients on top of my biscuits or the bread or whatever you're using for your savory bread pudding. So I'm just gonna pour it all over it. You want to try to get the cheese kind of spread out everywhere so it's not cheesy in one spot. Okay, this is looking great. I'm going to add just a little bit more cheese to the top because you can never have enough cheese, can you? I don't think so. I'm going to add just maybe another 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup of cheese just to get it sprinkled out all evenly on the top. And this is just going to make it that much better. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get my oven preheated to 350 degrees. But I want this to sit for about 10 minutes just to let that bread or the biscuits or whatever you're using soak up some of this milk mixture. So I'm gonna let the oven preheat, let this soak, and then I'm gonna throw it in the oven for about 40 minutes. I will show it to you then. I let this sit and soak for about 10 minutes. Now I'm throwing it into the oven. I'm gonna let it bake for about 40 minutes at 350 degrees. Okay, y'all, our savory bread pudding or biscuit pudding is fresh out of the oven and it smells so good. I love this bread pudding. This is gonna be so good with dinner tonight. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bite. It's really hot. This baked for 35 minutes in my oven at 350 degrees. This makes a great little snack, or it makes a great side dish with your lunch or your dinner. And I am just so happy that I put those extra biscuits to use. I do not like wasting anything, and this is just so satisfying that I got to use those and make this new dish of savory bread pudding. Okay, this is hot, but I'm gonna take a little bite. This is the ultimate comfort food. I always think of homemade bread or biscuits as the ultimate comfort food, but this takes it to a whole nother level. This is the ultimate comfort food. I'm gonna leave the recipe down in the description for the recipe for the savory bread pudding. You can print it out, try it out, and let me know if you like it. Thank you so much for being here with me on Robin on the Farm. I will see you next time.
Robin's in the kitchen, dough beneath her hands, wheat from the fields and eggs from her land. Sunlight through the window, a warm golden glow. She's working hard to make that dough. With flour on her apron, loving each need. Ground wheat fresh, sowing her seed. The smell of fresh bread rises in the air. Simple life without a care.